Now this is the way. Yes, Taika Waititi has been trending number 1 or number 2 for hours today, all because of this episode, directing this episode, and also voicing IG-11, who we'll talk about as well. But Waititi totally deserves the recognition, directing a stellar The Mandalorian season finale that has his fingerprints all over it. I mean, Jon Favreau gets script writing credit, but there's just too much stuff here that's just too much Taika Waititi. For instance, the opening scene, which was an instant classic, with the bike scout troopers having their little tete-a-tete. Now, this turned out to be cameos from not only Jason Sudeikis, who kind of almost trended at least, not top 10, but top 20, but also Adam Pally. Adam Pally is so funny, but unfortunately not enough people know who he is. He and Ike Barinholtz were a hilarious duo on the Mindy Project, which not a lot of people watched either. But they were hilarious here. By the way, each time when one of them punched Baby Yoda, I was like, you're going to die. Oh, you're going to die too, right? Like, you just can't do that and expect to live. But they had some great lines here. It was the kind of meta humor that Taika Waititi really excels at. And that's why I kind of feel like I should credit it to him. For instance, when they said, did Gideon just kill his own men? And I think it was Jason Sudeikis who said, yeah, he did it to make a point. Did you get that point? Because I get that point. I thought that was hilarious, in terms of they should follow Gideon's orders and not question anything. And then I also loved it when they were like, hey, can we get a sit rep? And the guy on the other side of the walkie-talkie was like, he just killed an officer for interrupting him, so this might take a while. I love that stuff. That stuff is hilarious, and I thought they pulled it off absolutely perfectly. It was just so Taika Waititi, who not only brought the funny to this episode, but I think it's fair. I think we have to be fair in crediting him with strong action sequences as well. Directors, they have to cut their teeth on a film, and it's weird. Someone like Bryan Singer had quite the and Christopher Nolan, for a more palatable choice. They both had learning curves from their first to second features. But I do believe that Thor Ragnarok was Taika Waititi's first, big movie like that, and he had a lot of great stuff in that film. Although I guess when you think about it, it had funny moments and beautiful visuals, strong visual moments, but not a huge number of action sequences. But this should make us all feel very good about Thor: Love and Thunder, because Taika Waititi seems ready to roll, right? That's exciting. But I thought, especially when IG-11, he had the best action sequences. When he stormed the town center on the bike scout trooper's bike. I thought that was just absolutely fantastic. And the way he turned around with Baby Yoda strapped to him. I mean, he will become a legendary droid because of this episode. I mean, also his slogan, to nurse and protect, a very clever play on serve and protect, was just fabulous. Even Mando came to love him. That's how great IG-11 was. Episode 8 also finally plunged this show, and I think that's the right term to use, because boy, into Star Wars mythology with the Darksaber and more, right? Which should finally level this show up to Game of Thrones level discussion. I also wish Watchmen level discussion. Watchmen was built for the same type of discussion, but unfortunately not many people, I think, were interested. I think the show perhaps was too political, which is a shame, because I think it was just brilliant. And I think if you gave it a chance, you would see that it was a very positive show over maybe you might have initially thought it was a negative show. But also, I think not enough people are familiar with the Watchmen comic, even though it is considered the greatest comic book of all time. So people just don't know that mythology. Although this draws so much on what Dave Filoni did with his animated shows, it's also a little inaccessible. But, they're going to fix that with season 2. Don't worry. And I made a whole season 2 video for what I'd like to see coming up, which will either go up later today or tomorrow, depending on my timing. But I've already shot it. I just have to edit it. But anyway, this episode, as I said, certainly made up for lost time with this season. And so much happened, it's hard to know where to start. But I guess I'll start with finally learning Mando's name and seeing his face. That was a great loophole, by the way, that IG-11 was not a living thing, so Mando would not be violating the oath that he had taken. Also, when IG-11 sacrificed himself, that was a great way to call back the self-destruct situation, and for him and Mando to have a very different discussion. That was great. That was really strong. I love that kind of stuff. I think it's the one thing that's really strongly, it's an important thing that's been missing from the series so far. So now it has all the goodies. But that was great. But anyway, I liked it when we learned his name, Din Djarin. I like calling him Mando, though, to be honest with you. But I also appreciated that when he took his helmet off, he had helmet hair, unlike Kylo Ren, who revealed a stunning blowout. Which I also appreciated. But, if you want to take the character really seriously, I think particularly because this is supposed to be like a gritty space drama and not like a romance novel, although I think the Kylo Ren character is kind of both. But here, I think it needed to be this way. This was the way, and it was great. Now, I also appreciated the parallels between him being saved by a Mandalorian. Those flashback scenes reminded me a bit of the Terminator universe, with those droids hunting down everybody on that planet where Din Djarin is from, right? Because he's not Mandalorian. He's just an honorary one. He's been inducted into their faith. But I like that when the Mandalorian who rescued him showed up, they had like a heavy metal type music come in, which again is very Taika Waititi. Are the Mandalorians the bikers of the Star Wars world? I think that would be fantastic. And then also, but again, as I said, the parallels between Din being saved as a child and him, now a Mandalorian himself, saving baby Yoda. I mean, not only were the parallels there story-wise, but the way they did it visually with the exact same shot with the jetpack taking off, well, that was just, again, top notch. And yes, Mando finally got a jetpack. A tremendous callback to earlier in the very season when he said, I gotta get me one of those. But I didn't think he used the jetpack during this season, especially since the Armourer said he needed to train with it. But I should have known, you can't give Mando a jetpack and not let him use it that season, right? And since this was the season finale, this was the time to use it. He, of course, still has to train with it, but he got off to a fantastic start. I loved when he was facing the TIE fighter with Gideon driving, and he shot up right in front of it so that he could attach himself to it to take it down. That was incredible. It was much better jetpack usage than I think we've ever seen. Forget in this season or this series. I think in anywhere in Star Wars. I mean, even Boba Fett. I think unfortunately due to restraints of VFX at the time that character existed, never looked this cool. I don't watch the Dave Filoni animation, so maybe there's some cool jetpack use there, but I think they're cheating because it's animation. But this was fantastic. When Greef Karga said, your guild rates just went up, I agreed. I was like, that guy's awesome. Back to the Armourer, I did think it was, it was funny to me that it's almost like whenever you go to see the Armourer, it's like when you in a video game when you go back to home base and you find out what the next level is. That's kind of what her character is like. I did like the way she described the Jedi though as an order of sorcerers, and I was like, George Lucas, you crazy bastard, that's genius. That is what they are. So I thought that was very cool. They are almost like, especially because of the way they are impartial and with the leadership in the galaxy, they are almost like a bunch of Merlins, which is so cool. Or if you think about the mages in The Witcher. So this is a good time for magicians, which is why, you want more Force use. It was ridiculous to make them extinct in the current films because the Jedi are such a fantastic group of characters. You want to have them. I mean, look what a baby one. Look at the how much everyone's freaking out about a baby one of them. So I like that description. And I did, she set up, the Armourer set up a pretty fantastic season 2. And he's like, you expect me to comb the whole galaxy? And she's like, this is the way. And he's like, all right. I'm like, wow, he really took that oath, boy. And I like that she made them a clan of 2 with the symbol being the Mythosaur helmet, which, was a little hard, I think, to take away. But you kind of, thank goodness for the internet to clear up what the show doesn't. Also, Baby Yoda's probably like, I'm pretty sure I handled that Mythosaur all by myself, but whatever, we'll share the credit, it's fine. And I'm glad we got to see the Armourer fight. I thought she handled herself very well. I liked how heavy her weapons seemed, and boy, that stormtrooper melted fast. I had no idea that that place where she was, melting everything, it didn't look that hot to me because it was just like a couple of circle of like lone flames, but wow, that guy just turned to goo immediately. But yeah, I would love to see the Armourer again. I'm sure she escaped, especially because they took care of all the bad guys at the end of the episode. We will see her again. Although with Baby Yoda, still not enough Force use. I thought for sure he'd choke out those scout troopers and they kept hitting him in the head. But I also, when Greef Karga was like, let's do the magic baby hand thing, and Baby Yoda just waved back, I thought that was fantastic. But I have to tell you, when he grabbed Mando's leg at the end of the episode, being like, it's just you and me, buddy, I laughed out loud. It was just so cute and adorable. I'd be like, I'm not searching for his people. He's mine. I mean, he's just so great. Then Cara Dune. Wow. Gina Carano. I still don't feel she could carry her own show or her own movie, but she has turned out to be a tremendous supporting action star. I mean, there were just so many cool moments here, but I think overall, she really held her own. She's like the coolest female, fighter, I think, in this kind of a story since Aliens, right? I loved her line when she was trying to tell Mando not to quit, and she's like, "You just got your bell rung," and I was like, "That's fantastic." And I also liked hearing a little bit more about her rebellion experiences. And they're like, "That's just a myth. They're not going to do that to you." And she's like, "I don't want to find out." I thought that was great. Carl Weathers is Greef Karga. I still really like the character, even though he's a backstabber. I did like the moment when he sneaked a drink at the bar, right? He was like, "I might as well." He's a disgraced magistrate, it was revealed, which is not that interesting. But, it's cool to find, Moff Gideon was just trying to prove he knew who everybody was by their backstory. But now, speaking of Moff Gideon, I also appreciated the competent bad guys for a change. I thought that was great. I think that the new trilogy has really suffered from them being cartoonishly incompetent. And their main bad guy not really being a bad guy. But this Gideon boy, I don't know why they keep calling him Moff, because the Empire's gone, so I don't know why he would keep his position. That's like a general or something in Star Wars in the Empire. So his real name is actually just Gideon. But I like the way he set up that E-Web gun, which I thought, by the way, would have like some kind of electronic element to it because it was called an E-Web, but it would just turn to be like a really big gun. But I liked that he was like, Cara Dune has experience with this model's predecessor, meaning it's even better. So I thought he handled that. It was a great line, and Giancarlo Esposito delivered it really well. And then I thought it was really clever when, speaking of the E-Web, when Mando picked it up, Gideon shot the base of it to make it explode, to take it out of play. So I was like, finally, a worthy adversary. Also to borrow from the Watchmen series. Watch Watchmen, it's so good. Then also, speaking of competent bad guys, I like the Shadow Stormtroopers showing up. They were slightly more competent. And then that weird fire torch guy who really made the most of his moment with his swagger as he walked up. It's like, "Yeah, I'm going to torch his face." Now, speaking of fire, I appreciated the lava river, which was a nice callback to Anakin and Obi-Wan's confrontation in Revenge of the Sith. Thought that was great. But speaking of that lava river, that R2-D2 droid who ended up having arms and legs, that was very unsettling, as I suspect it was supposed to be. So good job. And the episode was almost 45 minutes as well. Again, this is the way. I thought it was phenomenal. So what do you think of the Mandalorian Season 1 finale? I know some of you have been very happy with the show up until now. What do you think of this huge course change? As I said, they haven't lost the qualities of the original part of the earlier episodes, so I think now we should all be absolutely thrilled. But again, share your thoughts down below. Look out for more Star Wars coverage all weekend. Subscribe today, so you'll definitely see those videos. And of course, as always, you can check out some more other videos right now.